From its icy beginnings high on the Tibetan plateau, China's Yangtze falls over 5,000 meters to empty into the East China Sea. An expedition sets out to become the first Israeli team to navigate one of the most remote and unpredictable river regions on Earth, the Great Bend. Known to the Chinese for centuries as the Dragon's Back, here the Yangtze lashes its way through canyon walls, generating a massive 2,000 tons of water per second. And here, for 7 days, they face the dragon in all its fury. The Great Wall of China. Behind it, an extraordinary civilization kept to itself for centuries. But with the country opening to the west, and after a year of delicate negotiation, a group of Israelis have been given permission to raft the Yangtze River, a privilege hitherto granted to only a handful of Westerners. The group is made up of individuals from all walks of life. After careful selection, basic training and months of preparation, a team of 24 men and 1 woman was formed. Although most have rafted before, only a few have professional rafting experience. But despite their different backgrounds, all share a common aim, to test the limits of their endurance. After a 2-day journey from Israel, they arrive in Beijing. Here in China's capital, the unknown they have all come to seek already begins to exert its fascination. Their destination is Yunnan, the most southwesterly province in China. The town of Dali. Here they stop off at the local market to gather everything they will need on the expedition. If the river is their greatest obstacle, language runs a close second.
A few years difference, okay. You know how to read it? I can tell you.
Tan, their escort, translates for them. He is their link to the Chinese authorities. He will come as far as the river, but no further. There they will have to rely on themselves. Group members have their own area of responsibility. Sigal, the economist in the group, tries what she believes to be a creative approach to bridging the language barrier. For each individual, the expedition marks a desire to step outside the narrow routines of their lives.
Look how many books I have about China. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For me, China is all about taking what's in my imagination from the books I read and making it real. Traveling to places that any normal, sane person wouldn't dream of going to alone.
Sigal will be 1 woman among 24 men, a statistic that might give some women pause for thought. Not so Sigal.
There are not many people I like. Neither do I consider myself a social person. I'm going to China. If nice people come, it's a bonus. If they're not nice, I'll keep my distance. We're going to starve. At least that's the way it looks now. We're going to starve. There are some very important things missing.
The marketplace is a vivid reminder of Yunnan's ethnic diversity. Of the country's 60 ethnic groups, over 20 are to be found here. Some of these live in the isolation of the Great Bend. They will provide the expedition with a perfect opportunity to witness a way of life that has remained relatively unchanged for centuries. But for Yaron, the expedition's navigator, anthropology is the last thing on his mind.
My wife doesn't bother me, my work doesn't bother me, my kids don't need a bath. I have this wonderful disconnection. I don't owe anything to anybody.
A successful businessman, Yaron owns a variety of companies. For him, the journey represents escape.
I live in an urban environment. It's all about business and buses. I think you need to step out of it. My schedule is very loaded. Mental pressures of things you need to do and achieve, goals we set ourselves and need to reach. And it requires a lot of mental resources, many working hours, and what I'm looking for is a change in the atmosphere.
The group have spent the night at Lijiang, gateway to the Great Bend of the Yangtze. One of their aims is to map the river for future rafting expeditions. This will be done with satellite positioning technology. The food is packed into waterproof containers. Apart from the obvious danger of drowning, a spill on the river could rob them of valuable supplies. Once they put in, there will be no opportunity to make up for waterlogged food. After their night in Lijiang, the party head out under the watchful eye of Chairman Mao. The land of eternal spring. It is not difficult to see why the Chinese chose this name for the province of Yunnan. Now, at the end of the rainy season, the clear blue skies bode well for the rafters. The last stage of the journey is a 64-kilometer trek. This takes them into the Great Bend, and at last, the first sight of their goal. Very few expeditions have attempted a descent of the Great Bend, and fewer still have left any hard data about the river. For the group, the journey is a step into the dark. The river, some vast animal whose personality and idiosyncrasies are entirely unknown.
It's one of the most dangerous place in the world, I think. It gives you a feeling it's strong, mighty nature. Human being in front of this nature is nothing.
Expedition leader Ayal reads the river. Running his professional rafter's eye upstream, he's worried about the number of boulders in the water. But rocks aside, Ayal finds he has other concerns as well. One of his team has evidently decided that mountaineering may well be a safer bet than rafting the Yangtze.
I told myself, if I reach 65 in this shape, it's fine. After that, who cares? I don't need any more.
For Katri Maoz, a lieutenant colonel in the Israeli parachute regiment, the expedition marks his retirement from military life.
I think that I bring with me a lot of advantages in knowledge of survival and the knowledge how to rescue people. The ability to stay in extreme conditions.
Katri's experience made him the natural choice for managing rescue operations on the river. And with the prospect of even helicopter rescue over 12 hours away, a well-coordinated rescue strategy is crucial to survival in the event of accident.
When you know your body is in good shape, it's easier to cope with a lot of other things. In this area, you have to know you won't have any surprises.
Finally, after 2 days of walking, they reach the banks of the river. They will have one night to unpack and organize their equipment before the put-in the following day.
I'm excited. I can't think. What can you think when you see the water here? There's this huge sense of power.
The clear blue sky is deceptive. The water is 11 degrees centigrade, a full 7 degrees colder than they anticipated. To fall into the river without protection could seriously impair their ability to function. All will have to wear a wetsuit to protect against the cold. But for Tom, the rescue kayakist, water is his natural element, and nothing, not even the cold, will deter him.
I don't know how it is going to be as far as the rapids are concerned. I really don't know how it's going to look. It must be different than anything I knew before.
Putting in near the village of Daju, they will travel a distance of 240 kilometers. As they raft deeper into the Great Bend, the Yangtze will grow ever more challenging. ever more dangerous. Morning finds all engaged in a desperate effort to fight off the cold.
If it's going to be like this every morning, it will be horrible. It's really stressing me out. I just hope it's going to get warmer.
I think you're more afraid on the first day because you don't know the river yet, and it's cold, and you don't know how you're going to overcome it. But I came here because this is where I want to be.
The moment has come. One journey ends, another begins. There are 4 rafting guides on the expedition, 1 to each boat. Day 1 on the river begins with a safety drill. As there is a good chance they will find themselves in the water, the first thing they have to practice is the art of falling overboard. Ayal sums it all up in one sentence.
Think in the water. If you fall in, all the time mumble, think in the water. Think about me, think about the sentence, think in the water.
Should they fall overboard, the first man to reach them will probably be the rescue kayakist.
The key to making me efficient is to stay calm. Once you're calm, you'll find that you're able to keep your head.
At 17, Tom is the youngest member of the group. Living near the Jordan River, kayaking has been a way of life ever since he can remember.
For me, the kayak is my way of expressing myself, and my parents understand it. They know that in school I can't do it. In school I cannot realize my full abilities.
Unlike the heavier raft, the kayak's lightness puts Tom in intimate contact with the river.
You must control the angles of the kayak and the pedals too. You need to work with your body weight to know how the water works and how people react, how people think in the water. And you also need self-confidence.
While Tom may be a master on the Jordan, he has no experience of a high-volume river like the Yangtze.
There's a first time for everything, although this first time might be a bit over the top. I hope that this is not going to be a painful one. I know myself, I know what I can do. I have no doubt that it'll push us to the limit.
The role of the rescue kayakist also involves staying ahead of the rafts, scouting the rapids, and warning of potential dangers ahead. After an hour of gentle cruising, they are greeted by a dull roar. That and the seeming disappearance of the river ahead.
Okay.
The suspicion is enough for Ayal. He orders the boats to shore. Scouting the river is a routine procedure done whenever a rafter even suspects the presence of white water ahead. To do this, they need to find a vantage point above the river. To run a rapid successfully, the rafting guide has to find the best line through the obstacles that lie in the river. In rafting parlance, this is called reading white water. The trick, of course, is to get through while inflicting the least amount of damage to their equipment and themselves. The only obstacles here appear to be the waves along the opposite bank. Unless they are unusually high, waves do not present a serious threat. At this point, Their first rapid appeared to be plain sailing.
At first glance, the Yangtze looks very big. The water was calm, but you can still see that there is something still that is going to change, like the calm before the storm.
Tom is the first to feel the river's power. Tom finds a rescue point out of the flow of the main current and waits for the group to follow. Even as they meet the rapids, the guides begin to suspect what Tom already knows. The waves are 5 meters tall, twice as high as they estimated. The first raft finds the safety of an eddy. This is a current that runs contrary to the river's flow, creating an area of relative calm out of the main current. For rafters, eddies are the river's parking places. Each team wears a different colored helmet to aid identification in the water. Now the yellow hats enter the rapids at a less than perfect angle. Halfway down, the dragon lashes its tail. Five people are in the water. They are still struggling in the water when the white hats enter the fray. The Yangtze is unrepentant. Within seconds, one of their number is overboard. The guides are learning a valuable lesson. The river does not take kindly to those who underestimate its power. For Tom, his first attempt at rescue had been a sobering experience. He had not managed to reach even one of his team.
I wasn't ready for this rapid. We looked from the bank, we did some scouting. It seemed like a piece of cake, no problem, just right down the middle on the waves. We didn't have any proportions of how it looks from the water. I didn't act as I should have.
This stretch of whitewater would go down in the annals of the expedition as Blood Rapid. One of those in the water was Yaron, the navigator.
I swallowed a lot of water. I was thinking about why I didn't listen to my wife, why I came on this trip at all. I wanted to be on the boat again. It was horrible. I came up to get some air and then got a mouthful of water. And then I was down again and thought about my wife and kids. And then I came up for air again and another mouthful of water. And I caught. It was pretty scary.
Katri Maoz was also in the water.
Fear? No way. It was great. Really, no fear.
With the sun about to set, Ayal is anxious to make camp for the night. At first sight, his choice of location seems less than ideal. And with over a ton of equipment to unload before nightfall, some of his team are less than happy. Wood must be gathered for the fire before the coal begins to bite, food to be prepared, and with all their water taken from the river, it must be disinfected with iodine before it is fit for cooking and drinking. The river left little time for reflection, and only now do they stop and think about the day's events.
There were some very scary moments today. This river has very still parts. And you can feel this huge power held in check. Generally, everything here is very powerful. These walls of the mountains surrounding us. Look at this stone. It's amazing. It's simply an amazing stone. You could just sit and stare at it for hours. Amazing. I really like the way it looks. It's like radiating. Just look at its color.
Avshalom is a man of many parts. Carpenter, furniture designer, actor, and part-time philosopher.
The source of the attraction is not the danger, it's the unknown. The desire to get around, to fly, to know, to taste, to smell, the world is huge. 2 days before the journey here, I celebrated my 40th birthday. So exactly in this critical point, this midlife crisis, I sent myself for 2.5 weeks of observation to help myself see things a little differently.
The guides hold a post-mortem on the day's rafting, the thrills and spills of the first day, while giving them valuable insight into the river, have left some worrying about what may lie ahead. The day begins with a ritual of the helmet dance. This bizarre event is designed simply to redistribute people between the rafts. It also keeps the cold at bay. Today, Yaron will take his place in the white boat.
I constantly find myself crossing my fingers. Perhaps, if I change the boat, I may change my luck. But if I fall, what can I do?
Nearly twice as deep as the Grand Canyon, but only a third as wide, the Great Bend of the Yangtze has been a source of inspiration to Chinese poets and artists for centuries. With cliff walls rising sheer from the river to heights of sometimes 3 kilometers, its scale is awesome. Settlements are rare on the Great Bend, the terrain making building difficult. At the first sign of a house, some decide to pay a visit.
It's amazing to think of people living here, totally disconnected with the world.
The valley of the Yangtze is one of the most fertile in the world. Over 6,300 kilometers in length, the river is a lifeline to over 200 million people. For the group, it is a glimpse into the past, a past as remote in time as Yunnan is from the world they have come from.
Amazing, absolutely amazing.
But Sigal is not the only one to be amazed. Not everyone chose to visit the locals.
This person lives here, and I don't know if he's ever seen a white person before. Then along come a bunch of aliens, very uncomfortable.
My greatest pleasure is in meeting the local population. You reach little things that are located behind the wall. I think these are the most interesting things that there are.
For me, I find it very awkward for a group like this to descend on someone. If it was only 1 or 2 of us and we knocked on the door and said, "Pleased to meet you," and tried to communicate, that's different.
The longest river in Asia and the 3rd longest in the world, the Yangtze has garnered a variety of names. Here in the Yunnan, it is also known as Jinshejiang, the river of golden sands. The group found a possible reason for the choice of name. Along the bank was a mining camp. Here, prospectors sieved through the fertile Yangtze mud for gold. Ayal called a halt, a decision that had little to do with gold fever. Downriver, he had spotted the telltale signs of a rapid. The Jinshajiang had disappeared. Was it a rapid or merely a bend in the river? The guides went in search of the answer. For Carpenter Avshalom, there were other treasures in store.
I absolutely love it. For me, it's worth more than any yacht.
The banks of the river rarely make easy walking, but finally they found a good spot to read the whitewater. The rapid was riddled with holes. Caused by the current flowing over a submerged rock and being sucked into the space behind, a hole is like some vast cosmic washing machine that can suck down raft and rafter in seconds. Word spreads in the mining camp of the forthcoming attraction. Workers down tools and head for the cliffs in hopes of gaining a grandstand view of the spectacle. The dragon waits. The guides deliberate. Near the right bank, they see a safe line through the rapid. But taking that line will be to avoid the challenge of the rapid, a rafting strategy known as going chicken. Having already underestimated the Yangtze once, it's not something the guides want to do again. Tom slips down the rapids, deftly avoiding the holes. He finds safe haven in an eddy off the main current. The group had gone chicken. It was not so much a question of fear as common sense. Lacking confidence, they were taking no chances. The rafts take a safe line through the rapids, avoiding the edge of the hole as much as possible. It seemed to be the right decision, as even a tiny detour from the chosen line causes one of the rafts to almost lose control. With what they jokingly called Chicken Rapid behind them, they continued on their way. But the dragon would have the last laugh. Drifting slowly down the Yangtze, there is time to relax and enjoy the beauty of their surroundings.
I'm crazy about finding faces in rocks and stones, really crazy about it. I look at mountains and stuff and simply see whole movies. Faces of people, turtles, lizards, whatever. I really like it. It makes nature more human.
Putting in that evening to make camp, the expedition finds a welcoming committee. With food now in increasingly short supply, the idea forms that the Chinese might be in a position to help them to fresh supplies. As usual, language proved to be an intractable problem. There was no question that kwa constituted some kind of meat. The question was it duck or frog? For a man like Avshalom, taken with a simple life, the chance to mix with the locals was an opportunity not to be missed. As night fell, the mystery was solved. Kwa proved to be neither fish, flesh, nor fowl. It was, in fact, pumpkin. But while Avshalom was singing the praises of the simple life, Yaron was missing his home comforts.
It's hard labor. When you know it's going to end, it's much easier. But when you know that this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life, where are the joys, the pleasure, the good restaurants? It's nice for a week, but I couldn't live like this.
Meanwhile, after declining payment for the pumpkin, the Chinese had invited Avshalom to be their guest. The house is typical of many in the Great Bend, a single large living area with no electricity or running water. It gave simplicity a whole new meaning. The only source of cooking, lighting, and heating was the fire in the center of the room. Bare though it seemed, it was not without its form of entertainment. The sheng, or Chinese mouth organ, is one of the oldest musical instruments. Resembling a bagpipe, the sheng is a popular instrument with the rural Chinese, and the ability to play it, seemingly a necessary social accomplishment. It was time to leave. Faced with his host's kindness, Avshalom was not about to refuse the two young men who wanted to follow him back to the camp. The arrival of the two men triggered another round of miscommunication. Only this time, no one was even close. What they wanted had nothing to do with food, still less with a bed for the night. Morning found the whole group in a state of terminal embarrassment. Again, the culprit was language, or the lack of it.
Nothing to regret, no reason to feel guilty. A misunderstanding is a misunderstanding.
The two men had returned to the camp with Avshalom, confident that they had communicated their desire to hitch a ride with the group. With no spare life jackets, Ayal thought it too much of a risk. After his warm reception, Avshalom was less than happy with the decision.
It's a great honor for me that the locals ask for help. I come from a wealthy country, and I would have helped him regardless of any inconvenience to me.
All appeared calm. Tom flirts with the river, harnessing it to his will, running against the flow. But there was a malicious glint in the dragon's eye. It seemed little more than an angry assortment of eddies and cross-currents. Then, the unthinkable happened. Taken by surprise, all move quickly as they realize that someone is overboard. With a mean temperature of 11 degrees centigrade, and the ever-present threat of whirlpools, the Yangtze is not a river where you want to go bathing for long. For the second time in a matter of days, Katri Maoz is dragged into the boat. He is badly shaken. The raft is heavy. Even 4 men are hard put to right it. Thankfully, the supplies were well secured, and nothing is lost.
It was cold. I was under the boat. It was pretty scary. You count in your heart each second, second by second by second, and it doesn't end. How long can a person stay underwater?
Over 400 meters above the Yangtze is Old Boshan Stone Town, the first major settlement the expedition has seen since taking to the river. The climb was steep, and there were some who were less than happy.
You dragged me up here to the village, we schlepped up the mountain, and what do I find? Even a grocery store with cigarettes you can't find here.
Old Boshan Stone Town is built on the rock it rests on. Its inhabitants have made creative use of the distinctive red rock. Even their furniture is carved out of it. This gives the town an unusual designer feel. Gods of Chinese mythology protect every house from evil, happy to coexist alongside the icons of communist China. The visit to Stone Town is among their last on the river. They have rounded the Great Bend and now face south, gazing downriver to where some of the most challenging rafting awaits them. Old Boshan made a refreshing change from the river, a statement even Yaron had to agree with.
After the village, you return to the river. It's amazing, amazing. I have no words. I'm so fascinated that it scares how fascinated I am. It makes me think again about us Western people and our needs. Amazing, amazing. I have no words.
מדהים, מדהים. אין מילים, פשוט אין מילים.
Careful mapping has revealed that some of the data they have is inaccurate, not a comforting thought for an expedition still reeling from their earlier failures to ride the dragon. And some suspect the worst was yet to come. That morning, a wind began to blow and grew stronger by the hour. With a whole day battling the wind, they beach for the night. After so many days on the river, the physical effort of rafting is beginning to take its toll.
I rode down the river, and the river takes all my strength. It's hard to sit in the kayak for a long time. My back really hurts, and I'm totally exhausted and tired. Very tired.
This journey takes a lot of effort. It's not just something that simply passes you by.
But for Katri, the physical hardships mask deeper concerns.
Old age frightens me. To get to a stage where you look at a path and you can't walk it. And when you can't do it because of physical limitations, it's very frightening.
Sigal finds the thought of returning home even more difficult. For her, expeditions play a crucial role in her life.
The further I get from the expedition, I wither. As the next nears, I blossom. I'm at my peak during the expedition and continue to live on the fumes after it's over.
The last day of their journey. The group rides before sunup. Aches and pains aside, the camp fills with excitement.
The truth is that I'm really confident, very confident. And professionally, I think that it's going to be the biggest day of my life.
It scares me what's going to happen now. I don't want it to fall apart before it really needs to. But a kind of family was formed here. 25 people who got used to spending a lot of time together, and they felt good about it.
I'm dying of longing. I can't stop thinking about my wife and kids.
From a collection of individuals, the expedition has become a team. Shudi Bridge, and the last leg of their journey before the put-in beach. Here they jettison all unnecessary weight. A heavy raft could prove difficult to handle in the white water that lies ahead. After the silence of the Great Bend, the small town hums like a city. Shudi town is a center for many of the Naxi people. Identified by their traditional blue clothes, the Naxis were once a matriarchal society, where women were the head of the family and the title was traced to the female line. Remnants of this can still be found today. Before taking to the river, they pay a quick visit to the local market. But despite their whitewater prowess, no one is willing to risk the traditional Naxi food, chickpea jelly. The expedition has almost reached the end of its journey. Since they put in at Daju, they have covered a distance of more than 220 kilometers. 220 kilometers that amount to no more than a rehearsal for what is to come. The river gathers momentum. Now they face 2 hours of almost continuous whitewater as they pass through 5 rapids. The dragon grants them a brief respite, but downstream, the rapid line beckons. They stop to scout the river. What they found was the rapid they had all hoped for and dreaded. The problem facing the guides is that the only safe line through the whitewater will take them dangerously close to an enormous hole. Tom faced a dilemma. Having found the challenge he had traveled over 6,000 kilometers to meet, he was far from confident he could survive it. The team now face the biggest rapid of the expedition. Unable to find a safe line, Tom has been forced to accept his limitations.
They say that high volume separates the boys from the men, so I guess I'm still a boy.
Tom had done the unthinkable. He picks up his kayak and walks around the rapid to put in below.
If I'm not willing to take the risks, then why am I a kayakist? On the other hand, I didn't have a line. I looked for a place I could pass with a kayak, and I saw the inevitable, how the river would take me under. I just don't have the strength to deal with it.
With no clear path to go chicken, the rafts will have to pass perilously close to the hole. Another second over the hole would have spelt disaster. So far, so good. Had they all in fact overestimated the rapid? It was left to the red hats to find out. All search wildly for the man in the water. "300 yards downstream, the river gives him back. After 30 seconds underwater in such high volume, there is no knowing his condition. Tom must work fast. It seems that every rafting expedition's nightmare is about to become a reality. For Shilav Yaakov, history teacher, it had been a lucky escape. Within a kilometer of their goal, the dragon had given them a gentle reminder of their place in the order of things. Jinan Kiao Bridge and Journey's End.
In the past, I was able to go back home and tell a story, but it's going to be very hard to tell this one. It's enormous, it's huge. I don't think we can describe it.
Brother, I'm so joyful. Look at me, you see? Everything is flowing here. All the wrinkles. It's so much fun.
The end was so strong, so frightening. I now realize that throughout the whole journey, we didn't understand the enormity of this river. Amazing, simply amazing, such power.
I guess you can stay forever young after all. You can stay forever young, I guess.
For some, the journey down the Yangtze had been as much an emotional as a physical one, at times leading them gently, at others driving them before it. The dragon had probed their weaknesses and revealed their strength. Now they could go home, content in the knowledge that they had faced the dragon, while the Yangtze continued in its long journey to the sea.